the fall of the Tsar and then the establishment of, Soviet Union, obviously, Stalin takes over the Soviet Union, and then Stalin's policy, it seems, obviously, people who are very critical of him argue, was to create these regions on the borders that they were a bit disputed, that would allow him to potentially intervene in ethnic or civil conflicts in Turkey and in Iran. So that's why the way that region was organized during the Soviet era was very problematic. So, how do I mean problematic? You have the Caucasus, and the Caucasus before the Russian, Soviet, and Russian imperial rule were ruled by Turkic speaking people, but usually with Armenian vassals. There was very limited ethnic conflict. It was kind of a peaceful coexistence. In the Soviet Union, what you have, Soviet Union, although it was a dictatorial state, very centralized, people forget it was a union. You had all these so-called independent republics. You had a Soviet Azerbaijan, and then you had a Armenia, right, within the Soviet Republic. Then you had this Karabakh region. By the way, it's called Nagorno-Karabakh, but I just go Karabakh because that's like easier for me. Anyway, then you had this Karabakh region and the surrounding regions that were largely, I believe, based on estimates, more than 60% was Armenian population, right? That region was put inside the Azerbaijani Soviet, right? But there were always tensions leading to basically Soviets actually allowing them to become an autonomous region within Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan, right? Then you get to end of Soviet Union. So, this is going on. This is what's happening for all of Soviet. Then you get 1988, I think, when there are protests, when there are uprisings, people from Karabakh, they want to join, they want to unify with Armenia, and they are suppressed by Soviet forces. And then after you have the fall, after the Soviet collapses, that in that region they hold a referendum, just like many other post-Soviet states that they hold a referendum and they decide to become independent. But Azeri people boycott this referendum because it's kind of like the Ireland situation, that should we have for example, if we want to have Northern Ireland unify with Ireland, should we have just Northern Ireland vote or should we have the whole of Ireland vote? So Azeris, because they say that you don't include all of Azerbaijan, we boycott this vote. And uh, uh, yeah, but in that so obviously that referendum, independence wins, right? And independence and unification with Armenia. But Karabakh doesn't become unified with Armenia, and that's very key. What gets established there is a Republic of Arstak, which is an independent entity, kind of like Northern Cyprus situation, that nobody recognizes. I believe there are 7 states within the US that recognize the Republic of Arstak, and maybe 2 other countries. I don't think even Armenia doesn't recognize Republic of Arstak, if I'm not mistaken. And that comes more into recent development. But that's the historical background. Oh, and then after this, in 1990s, following the referendum, following the independence and the call for unification with Armenia or establishment of an independent republic, there is a war, significant, a very bloody war. And in that war, Armenia manages to take over the control over Karabakh and I believe 7 surrounding regions, right? Because if you look at the map right now, that I don't understand why they do that in most news stories. They show Karabakh, which is literally a landlocked region within Azerbaijan, and they say this region is controlled by Armenia. But that's not it. The surrounding regions that connect Karabakh to Armenia is also controlled by Armenian troops.
And these surrounding regions fall within Azerbaijan or Armenia?
legally Azerbaijan,
Okay.
but controlled by Armenia.
So that's why my question was
Yeah,
stupid. So Armenia has a presence despite the fact that
it's
it
all
falls.
yeah, it's all been for the last 30 years. It's been controlled by Armenia. Republic of Arstak has established a state. Yeah, it's all under Armenian control.
So,
Armenia basically
okay.
won the war.
So the
Yeah.
republic that you just said is just a different name for this region right now at the moment,
It's Republic of Arstak is another name for Nagorno-Karabakh region's government.
which
Yeah.
is technically the official name.
Because no, it's just that Nagorno-Karabakh is one region. They control larger, you know what I mean? Like it's such
Yeah.
small regions. Republic of Arstak is all of that, but in general, most people just say Karabakh or Nagorno-Karabakh, you know. And but yeah, Armenia basically won the war, and they managed to take over control that region and the areas that connect to Armenia. Now,
So now
let's get into
now it's Azerbaijan then who has sent in troops into this region then.
That's why. Yeah, and that's why
Wow,
I
so
was
complicated. So
watching
it's
interviews.
officially recognized as being part of Azerbaijan, but it is not only like populated by ethnic Armenians, which that part I understood, but is in fact controlled by Armenia. Okay.
Yeah, basically. But let's get into. I think that's so you understand the basic like historical background. But that's like that's the old historical background. Now we have to get into like recent historical background. So you have this group formed called Minsk Group, right? It's Russia, US, and France largely. And by the way, France is a key thing here because France has a very high population of Armenian diaspora who are very rich, very influential, and I mean, Armenia is one of those countries that the diaspora is larger than the population within the country, right? I'm sure you've heard of him, Charles Aznavour. He was actually a famous French Armenian singer. He was even an ambassador from Armenia to UN.
Okay.
Legendary. I think he's sold more records than Elvis.
And I see.
Fantastic.
And maybe at the end of this segment, you can tell us a little bit why Armenia has such a big diaspora. But yeah, please continue. Save that for after.
Yep. But so you had this Minsk group, and the Minsk group was trying to negotiate a peace settlement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. They've had sort of come to an understanding after 30 years of talks, 20 years of talks, but then about 5-6 years ago the talks sort of halted. I mean, Turkey is also part. I believe is an observing member of Minsk group. It's not a chair it's not a really powerful position. Turkey even tried to have a sort of a increased contact and more relations with Armenia. Charles Aznavour that I mentioned actually played a role in that, trying to bring, because he's an Armenian of Anatolia, of Anatolian origins, so he has some connections with Turkey as well. He tried to bring Turkey and Armenia together, but the peace talks were not successful. I mean, they didn't lead to. They were successful. There were good steps made, but there was nothing concrete. Nothing. Then I have to go into Armenian politics. So this is gonna get a bit more complicated. Following the war in Armenia and Azerbaijan, you had a situation where Armenian politics was dominated by war veterans from this war, from war veterans from this region, pretty much until the latest president, Nikol Pashinyan. All presidents, prime ministers, all the leadership were born in Karabakh region.
Wow. So leadership for all of the country, not that region. Now you're talking about like Armenia.
Yeah, exactly. Armenia. They were the most famous of them, Kucharian, if I'm not mistaken. He was a war commander in Karabakh. He was the former president, if I'm not mistaken. So these war veterans from Karabakh War, who was a they won that war. They came to dominate Armenian politics, and as with many other countries within the former Soviet countries, there were a lot of corruption. There were a lot of money going missing, that type of thing. So these people dominated the Armenian politics for a long while. About 2 years ago, you had this protest movement in Armenia, the anti-corruption movement. And Armenia, unlike Azerbaijan, doesn't have a natural resource like oil, right? Because Aliyev family, I'll get into that. Aliyev family that controls Azerbaijan is possibly one of the most corrupt families, corrupt dictatorships even within former Soviet countries. It's been implicated in Panama Papers. It's been implicated in every fucking major international corruption case, right? But Armenia doesn't have a natural resource. So the Armenian state is not quite as powerful as Azerbaijani state. So the protest movement actually led to change in government. And you have people like Nikol Pashinyan, who was a journalist, who was an anti-corruption journalist, becoming the president of Armenia. And a lot of people in the West, I mean, I've mentioned them before, but there is this channel on YouTube, Visual Politics. They did a video saying these are good, these are signs for hope, for peace. Well, it doesn't look like that anymore. But Pashinyan comes to power. And that, in my view, I think that may be key to understanding why this conflict is happening now. And then Pashinyan sort of walks back from Armenia's commitment to Minsk group and says, and he seems to be pushing for the unification of Republic of Artsakh with Armenia, just getting rid of the independent Artsakh and unifying it with Armenia. And that may have also played into Azeri's decision to, attack now, because they see Armenia basically abandoning the peace process.